hull of USS England shuddered. May 31st, 1944, 5:32 in the morning, the Hedgehog launcher fired its final salvo. 24 projectiles arced through the pre-dawn darkness, splashed into the Black Pacific, sank at 23 feet per second toward a target 400 feet below. Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton stood in the Combat Information Center, 37 years old. First war patrol as commanding officer. 6 submarines already dead in 12 days. This was number 7. The last one, RO-105, and England had 72 Hedgehog rounds left. Just fired 24. 48 remaining. If this attack missed, there wouldn't be enough ammunition for another full pattern. The sonar operator's voice cut through the silence. "Contact turning 30 degrees, sir." Pendleton watched the screen. The submarine was executing the same evasion pattern it had used for the past 4 hours. 30 degrees to port, then 30 degrees to starboard every 4 minutes. Predictable. Humans couldn't be random. They fell into patterns. The mathematics said the submarine would be at bearing 092 when the projectiles reached depth. Pendleton had calculated the firing solution himself, led the target by 200 feet, predicted the turn, 9 seconds to impact. 8 detonations merged into one continuous roar. Then the sound of metal tearing apart, bulkheads collapsing, a pressure hull rupturing at 400 feet depth. RO-105 broke apart. 56 Japanese sailors died before they understood what was happening. 6 submarines in 12 days, 387 men dead, all because one man trusted mathematics when nobody else would. This is that story. The year is 1944. The war in the Pacific has been raging for 32 months. American forces are island hopping toward Japan. The Japanese Imperial Navy knows what's coming. They need to know where. 7 Type RO submarines deployed in a scouting line across the route to the Marianas, designated the NA line, positioned at precise intervals from Truk Island to the waters west of Manus. Their mission: detect American carrier task forces, report their heading, give Admiral Suemu Toyoda the intelligence he needs. The submarines are his eyes. But American cryptographers at Fleet Radio Unit Pacific have broken the Japanese naval code. They know exactly where all 7 submarines are stationed. They know the patrol schedules. They know the radio frequencies. The Japanese don't know. The Americans know. 3 destroyer escorts receive orders on May 20th. USS England, USS George, USS Raby. Their mission is simple, impossible. Hunt down all 7 submarines, kill them before they can report anything. Walton Pendleton reads the orders in his cabin aboard England. 6'1", lean, hair going grey at the temples, face weathered from 22 months in the Pacific sun. He was born in Iowa in 1907. Son of a corn farmer, grew up working land that didn't belong to his family. Learned early that numbers mattered more than hope. You could hope for rain, but the rainfall data from the previous 10 years told you whether to plant. He studied engineering at Iowa State. Graduated 1928. Joined the Navy in 1930 because the Depression had killed the civilian job market. Spent 14 years rising slowly through the ranks. No family connections, no academy pedigree, just competence and mathematics. In July 1942, his younger brother Clayton was serving aboard USS Grunion, a Gato-class submarine. Grunion departed Dutch Harbor on patrol near Kiska Island, Alaska. Japanese destroyers detected her. Depth charges, the submarine went down with all hands. 46 men, including Clayton Pendleton, age 28. Walton received the telegram at Pearl Harbor. Read it once, folded it, put it in his footlocker, went back to work. That night he sat alone in the officers' club. Didn't drink, just stared at the wall. A commander asked if he was all right. Pendleton said, "Emotions kill people. Numbers save lives." The commander didn't understand. Pendleton didn't explain, but from that moment forward, he trusted data over instinct, statistics over experience, mathematics over tradition. When you lose someone to the sea, you either break or you calculate. Pendleton calculated. May 1944, Pendleton takes command of USS England, DE 635, Buckley-class destroyer escort, 306 feet long, displacement 1,400 tons, 77 feet shorter than a fleet destroyer, half the crew, built for one purpose, hunting submarines. England carries depth charges like every other anti-submarine vessel in the Pacific Fleet. Roll them off the stern. Set the hydrostatic fuse for estimated depth. Hope the submarine is still there when the charges detonate. But England also carries something different, something most captains don't trust. Mounted on the forward deck, 24 spigot mortars arranged in rows. The British call it Hedgehog. Fires projectiles 200 yards ahead of the ship in a circular pattern. 65-pound projectiles. 35 pounds of Torpex explosive in each one, contact fuses. They only explode if they hit something solid. The advantage is obvious. Forward throwing means you maintain sonar contact throughout the attack. Conventional depth charges roll off the stern. By the time they sink to detonation depth, you've lost sonar contact. The submarine has moved. The explosions disturb the water so badly that sonar becomes useless for 15 minutes. The submarine escapes in the chaos. Hedgehog changes everything. Fire ahead, keep tracking. Silent misses leave the water undisturbed. No lost contact. If the projectiles explode, you know you hit something. If they stay silent, you know you missed. Certainty. The problem is the statistics. Early trials showed a 5% success rate. 1 kill for every 20 attacks, better than depth charges, which showed 1 kill for every 60 attacks during early war testing. But 5% still meant 19 failures for every success. Ship captains preferred the familiar thunder of depth charges. You could hear them explode. Feel the ship shake. Tell yourself you'd damaged the submarine even if you hadn't killed it. Hedgehog gave you nothing unless you scored a direct hit. Silence felt like failure. Most captains requested to have the Hedgehog removed, wanted the deck space for additional depth charge racks. Pendleton studied the numbers differently. British forces had launched 5,174 depth charge attacks during the war, 85 confirmed submarine kills, 1.6% success rate. The mathematics was brutal. Hedgehog trials showed 5%. That was 3 times better than depth charges in actual combat conditions. 3 times. Pendleton ran the calculations in his cabin. If England encountered 7 submarines, conventional depth charges might kill 1, maybe 2 if they were lucky. Hedgehog might kill 3 or 4. But the weapon was new. The techniques were still being developed. Nobody had proven it could work consistently in combat. Pendleton decided to trust the mathematics. 5% was better than 1.6%. The numbers didn't lie. His crew didn't share his confidence. May 18th, one day before the first contact. Pendleton calls a meeting of the ship's officers in the wardroom, 7 men, ages ranging from 24 to 42. The executive officer is the oldest. 42, career Navy, served on destroyers in the Atlantic before transferring to the Pacific. He wants to use depth charges. Conventional tactics, proven methods. He says, "Sir, respectfully, Hedgehog has a 5% success rate. That means 95% failure." Pendleton says, "Depth charges have a 1.6% success rate. That means 98.4% failure." And the exec says, "But we have experience with depth charges. The crew knows how to deploy them. We've drilled the procedures. Hedgehog is new, experimental." Another officer speaks up, the gunnery officer, 29 years old. He says, "The British developed Hedgehog because depth charges weren't working. If the old methods were effective, they wouldn't have needed something new." The exec shakes his head. "The British are desperate. They're trying anything. That doesn't mean it works." Yeats. Pendleton lets them argue. He listens to the positions, waits for everyone to speak. Then he stands. He says, "We have orders to kill 7 submarines. Conventional depth charges will kill 1, maybe 2. The mathematics is clear. Hedgehog gives us a better chance." The exec says, "Experience matters more than mathematics, sir. I've been hunting submarines for 3 years. Pendleton looks at him, doesn't blink, says, "The experience of dead men has no value. The British lost thousands of sailors using conventional tactics. We're going to trust the numbers." The room goes quiet. Pendleton continues, We will use Hedgehog exclusively. No depth charges unless I give explicit orders. Train the crews. Drill the firing sequences. We have 1 day. The meeting ends. The officers file out. The exec lingers. He says quietly, "Sir, if you're wrong about this, a lot of men are going to die." Pendleton says, "If I'm wrong, we'll switch to depth charges." But I'm not wrong. The mathematics doesn't lie. May 19th. 1:50 in the morning. England's radar picks up a surface contact at 15,000 yards. Fleet Radio Unit Pacific had decoded Japanese submarine Y-16's transmission 4 days earlier. Destination Bougainville. Arrival time 2200 hours, May 19th. The intelligence is perfect. England and 2 sister ships, George and Raby, positioned themselves along Y-16's route. Now the contact is real. Pendleton studies the radar screen. The contact is moving at 6 knots. Surface speed. The submarine is recharging its batteries. Standard procedure. Submarines had to surface at night, run diesel engines, recharge the electric batteries that powered the underwater motors. The contact is vulnerable on the surface, but submarine commanders could crash dive in 60 seconds, be at 200 feet depth in 3 minutes, disappear into the black water. Pendleton gives the order. General quarters, close to attack range. When England's engines accelerate, the destroyer escort cuts through the dark Pacific at 23 knots. 4 miles separate the ships. At 1:58, I-16's lookouts spot England. The submarine crash dives, claxons blaring, ballast tanks flooding. The bow angles down. By 2:01, I-16 is submerged, running deep, making radical turns. The Japanese commander knows he's being hunted. Pendleton stands in the Combat Information Center, watches the sonar operator track the contact. Range 1,400 yards, depth 150 feet, bearing changing rapidly. The sonar operator is young, 23 years old. This is his first combat patrol. He calls out the data. Contact bearing 075, range 1,300, depth 175, speed 6 knots. Pendleton calculates the firing solution in his head. Hedgehog projectiles sink at 23 feet per second. At 175 feet depth, the projectiles will take 7.6 seconds to reach the target. In 7.6 seconds, a submarine moving at 6 knots will travel 76 feet. He needs to fire at where the submarine will be in 7.6 seconds, not where it is now. First attack, 13:41 hours. 24 projectiles arc through the afternoon sky, splash into the Pacific, sink into darkness, silence, miss. I-16 had turned during the projectile descent. The firing solution predicted the submarine would be at bearing 082. It was actually at bearing 095. 13 degrees off, the circular pattern missed by 200 feet. The sonar operator's voice wavers. "Contact still moving, sir. Bearing 102. Pendleton doesn't react. He recalculates. The submarine turned starboard 30 degrees during the attack. Predictable evasion. Most submarine commanders turned into the attack trying to throw off the firing solution. Second attack. 1 hit at 130 feet depth. Single explosion. The blast lifts England's bow. The crew feels it, hears it, hopes. But 1 hit isn't enough. Hedgehog projectiles weigh 65 pounds. Carry 35 pounds of Torpex. 1 explosion creates a hole in the pressure hull, but a submarine can survive a single hole if the watertight doors are sealed. I-16 keeps moving. Third attack. Miss. The submarine has gone deeper. The sonar operator calls out the new depth. Contact at 325 feet, sir. 325 feet. Deeper than Pendleton had estimated. Deeper than most submarines operated. The Japanese commander is good. He's pushing his boat to the limits. Pendleton adjusts the firing solution, calculates the new descent time. At 325 feet, the projectiles will take 14.1 seconds to reach depth. The submarine will travel 142 feet in that time. Fourth attack. I-16 turns inside the pattern. Another miss, 1433. Fifth attack. 4 detonations in rapid succession, then 6 more, 10 total. A massive underwater explosion follows. The blast lifts England's stern clear out of the water. Sailors are knocked off their feet. The ship's hull groans. The exec grabs a bulkhead for support. Looks at Pendleton. Pendleton stands steady, watches the sonar screen. 20 minutes later, debris begins surfacing. Oil, wood fragments, pieces of fabric, a life jacket with Japanese characters. I-16 is gone. 107 men dead. Pendleton walks out to the main deck, stands at the rail, watches the oil slick spread across the water. Dark rainbow patterns in the afternoon sun. The slick is a mile wide, growing. Somewhere beneath that oil are 107 bodies. Young men, sailors, some of them probably 19 years old. Same age as England's youngest crewman. The exec approaches, says 5 attacks, 1 kill, 20% success rate, 4 times better than the trials. Pendleton nods, doesn't speak. The exec says, "The weapon works, sir. The crew trusts it now." Pendleton says quietly, 5 attacks for 1 submarine. We have 7 targets. That's 35 attacks. We don't have enough ammunition. The exec blinks. "Sir, we carry 240 hedgehog rounds total. 35 attacks is 840 projectiles. We need to be more efficient." Pendleton turns away from the rail, goes back inside, returns to his cabin, sits at the desk, opens his notebook. He writes, I-16, 5 attacks, 107 men, 20% success rate, must improve. Then he writes, "Clayton, I'm killing people to save people. I hope you understand." He closes the notebook, stares at the bulkhead, thinks about mathematics. Thinks about his brother at the bottom of the Pacific near Alaska. Thinks about 107 Japanese sailors at the bottom of the Pacific near Bougainville. The calculations were correct, but correctness offered no comfort. May the 20th, Fleet Radio Unit Pacific decodes another transmission. 7 more Japanese submarines stationed in a patrol line north of the Admiralty Islands. The NA line, R0104, R0105, R0106, R0108, R0109, R0112, R0116. Each submarine carries 56 crew members, 392 Japanese sailors total. Commander Hamilton Haynes receives the intelligence at Tulagi. He's the division commander, controls England, George and Raby. 3 ships, 7 targets. Haynes sends orders to Pendleton. Proceed to NA line. Prosecute all contacts. Pendleton reads the message. 7 submarines. After I-16, that makes 8 total. If England maintains a 20% success rate, they'll need 5 attacks per submarine. 40 attacks. 960 projectiles. England has 120 rounds remaining after the I-16 engagement. The mathematics is tight. Pendleton calls the exec to his cabin, says, "We need to improve our efficiency. 20% isn't good enough." The exec says, "Sir, 20% is 4 times better than anyone expected. It's not good enough. We need better than 33%. 3 attacks per submarine maximum. That's 72 projectiles per kill. We have 120 rounds, 5 full patterns. If we average 2 attacks per submarine, we can kill all 7. 3 attacks each, and we run dry before the last target." What about George and Raby? They're using depth charges, conventional tactics. They won't kill any submarines. This is on us. The exec is quiet for a moment. Then says, "What if we can't improve the accuracy?" Pendleton looks at him. "Then we run out of ammunition and 3 or 4 Japanese submarines continue reporting American fleet movements. Men die because we failed." "That's not on you, sir. That's on the weapon. The weapon is mathematics. Mathematics doesn't fail. People fail." The exec leaves. Pendleton stays in his cabin, studies the charts. The NA line stretches across 3,000 square miles of ocean. The submarines are positioned at precise intervals, predictable stations. The Japanese are using the same tactic they've used throughout the war. Station submarines where American forces have moved before. Hope the Americans move there again. But Fleet Radio Unit Pacific has given the Americans an advantage the Japanese don't know exists. The Americans know exactly where the picket line is positioned, know the patrol patterns, know the radio schedules. Pendleton marks the chart. 7 positions, 7 submarines, 392 men. He thinks they're somebody's brothers too. Then he thinks, but they'll kill Americans if we let them live. The mathematics is simple. Kill 7 submarines now, save hundreds of American sailors later when those submarines can't report fleet positions. Emotion versus calculation. Pendleton chooses calculation. He always does. England. George and Raby depart Purvis Bay on May 21st. Standard line abreast formation. 16,000 yards between ships during darkness. Radar sweeps every 30 seconds. Sonar pinging continuously. The hunt begins, May 22nd, 3:50 in the morning. George's radar detects a surface contact at 15,000 yards. The first submarine on the NA line, RO106. The contact is recharging batteries, running on the surface in darkness. Standard procedure, every submarine had to surface, run diesel engines, recharge the electric batteries that powered submerged operations. George's searchlight catches RO106 on the surface. The beam cuts through the darkness, illuminates the submarine's conning tower for 3 seconds. The Japanese commander reacts immediately. Crash dive, klaxons, ballast tanks flooding. The bow angles down. Within 90 seconds, RO106 is submerged. George fires Hedgehog at 04:15. 24 projectiles splash into the dark water, sink into silence. Nothing. Miss. George's sonar operator lost the contact during the attack. The submarine turned hard during the dive, changed depth, disappeared into the thermal layers. England regained sonar contact at 04:25, range 1,400 yards. RO106 is running deep, making radical turns. The Japanese commander knows the tactics. Turn inside the attack pattern, change depth constantly, make the Americans guess. Pendleton doesn't guess. His sonar operator tracks every turn, calls out depth changes, range, bearing. The data feeds directly into Pendleton's calculations. First attack. Miss. RO106 turned 30 degrees during the 9-second projectile descent. The firing solution predicted bearing 090. The submarine was actually at bearing 115. 25 degrees off. Pendleton recalculates. The submarine is turning to starboard. Consistent pattern. Every evasion maneuver goes right. The commander has a preference. Humans always do. Second attack. 0501. 24 projectiles form their circular pattern. Sink through the darkness. 3 detonations, maybe 4. Hard to count when they come so close together. Then a massive underwater explosion. The pressure wave rolls across the surface. England's hull shudders. George and Raby feel it 4,000 yards away. At sunrise, the oil slick is half a mile wide. Debris floating, metal fragments, wood, no survivors. RO106. 56 men dead 24 hours after I-16. Pendleton stands on England's bridge, watches the sun rise over the oil slick. The Pacific turns from black to grey to blue. The debris field spreads, life jackets, a wooden crate with Japanese markings, something that might be a shoe. The exec says, 2 submarines in 2 days, sir. 2 attacks for RO106. We're improving. Pendleton says, we're learning their patterns. They turn to starboard under pressure. Western naval training, it's predictable. Should we share that with George and Raby? They're not using Hedgehog. It won't help them. Nidkan, the 3 destroyer escorts, reform their line. 16,000 yards spacing. Continue northeast along the NA line. The next submarine is out there, somewhere in 3,000 square miles of ocean. The mathematics says they'll find it. The Japanese are predictable. They surface on schedules. They follow patrol patterns. They maintain radio silence now, but they surfaced last night. They'll surface again tonight. All England has to do is wait. Listen, calculate May 23rd, 600 in the morning. Raby's radar detects another surface contact, range 22,000 yards. The contact dives before identification. The Japanese commander learned something from RO106's death. Don't stay on the surface, dive at first radar contact, run deep immediately. Raby fires 4 Hedgehog attacks starting at 0617, all misses. RO104 is turning inside the patterns. The Japanese commander is good. Every time projectiles splash above him, he turns, changes depth, makes the mathematics impossible. George tries next. First attack misses at 0717. Second, third, fourth attacks all miss between 0730 and 0810. 8 consecutive hedgehog attacks, 8 misses. RO104's commander is better than RO106's was. He's varying his turns, not just turning to starboard, port again, no pattern, or a pattern too complex to predict in 9 seconds. Division Commander Haynes watches from George's Bridge. England approaches for her turn. Pendleton's crew has 2 kills. Raby and George have none. The pattern is becoming clear. England's sonar operators are better, or her hedgehog crews are faster, or Pendleton's firing solutions are more accurate, maybe all 3. Haynes picks up the radio transmitter, sends 5 words to England, 5 words that will become Navy legend. "Oh, hell, go ahead, England." Pendleton receives the message, reads it, hands it to the exec. The exec grins, says, "They're admitting we're better at this." Pendleton says, "They're admitting hedgehog works when you trust the mathematics. Prepare to attack." England's first hedgehog attack misses. RO104 turns, but Pendleton's sonar operator tracks the turn, calls it out. Pendleton recalculates during the reload. The submarine is deep, 300 feet, running at maximum speed, 6 knots, turning every 45 seconds, short intervals. The commander is panicking now. 8 attacks survived. He thinks if he just keeps turning, keeps changing depth, the Americans will give up. But Pendleton doesn't give up. He calculates. At 300 feet depth, hedgehog projectiles take 13 seconds to reach target. At 6 knots, the submarine travels 130 feet in 13 seconds. But if the submarine turns during descent, it travels in an arc, not a straight line. Pendleton factors the arc into his calculation. Predicts where a turning submarine will be 13 seconds from now. Second attack, 0834, 10 detonations, maybe 12. The explosions merge into one continuous roar, then breaking up noises, metal tearing, bulkheads collapsing, the sound of a pressure hull failing at 300 feet depth. 3 minutes later, a major underwater explosion. The submarine's batteries ruptured. Electrical fire met seawater, hydrogen gas ignited, oil and debris surface at 10:45, RO104. 56 more men dead. 3 submarines in 72 hours, 163 Japanese sailors gone. Pendleton writes in his notebook that night, 3 kills, 7 attacks total, 43% success rate, better than expected, but still burning ammunition too fast. Then he writes, 163 men, someone's sons, someone's brothers. He pauses, pen hovering over the page, then writes, "Clayton, I'm saving people by killing people." The mathematics justifies it. But does anything justify this? He closes the notebook. Doesn't sleep, stares at the overhead, counts the rivets in the steel plating. Anything to avoid thinking about 163 bodies at the bottom of the Pacific. At 3 a.m. he gives up trying to sleep, goes to the Combat Information Center. The night watch sonar operator is tracking random contacts. Whales, probably. Or thermal layers creating false returns. The operator sees Pendleton, straightens up. "Sir, nothing to report." Pendleton says, "Carry on." He stands there for an hour, watching the sonar screen, green phosphorescent glow, meaningless contacts appearing and disappearing. The ocean is full of sounds, most of them harmless. Somewhere out there, 4 more Japanese submarines are running submerged, listening to their own sonar, wondering if they're next. Pendleton thinks, they know we're hunting them. 3 submarines gone in 3 days. They have to know. 3. And he thinks, good. Fear makes people predictable. Predictable patterns mean better mathematics. He hates himself for thinking it. But he thinks it anyway. May 24th, 1:20 in the morning, George's radar detects RO116 on the surface, range 15,000 yards. The submarine dives at 1:30, standard crash dive. But RO116 commander does something different, something Pendleton hasn't seen before. Instead of diving deep, he goes shallow, 150 feet. Most submarine commanders dove to maximum depth, 300 feet, 400. Put as much water as possible between themselves and the surface. Maximum cushion against explosions. RO116's commander does the opposite, stays shallow, makes sharp turns, bets the Americans will set their firing solutions for deep targets. It's a good bet. Pendleton has been targeting deep 250 to 300 feet. That's where the previous 3 submarines ran. England establishes sonar contact at 150. The sonar operator calls out the depth. Contact at 150 feet, sir. Shallow. Pendleton processes this. Shallow means different mathematics. Hedgehog projectiles take 6.5 seconds to reach 150 feet. Less time means less distance traveled. Tighter firing solution. But shallow also means something else, something the Japanese commander might not have considered. At 150 feet depth, water pressure is 65 pounds per square inch. A 3-inch hole created by a Hedgehog projectile allows seawater to enter at 400 gallons per minute. At 300 feet depth, the same hole allows 800 gallons per minute. Shallow means less pressure, less flooding, better chance of survival if hit, but it also means less time to react, less depth to maneuver, nowhere to go but up or sideways. Pendleton adjusts the firing solution. Targets 150 feet. Calculates the submarine's position 6.5 seconds from now. First attack. 0214. 3 detonations. Maybe 5. Not the massive explosion of previous kills. No battery rupture, no catastrophic hull failure, just the sound of 65-pound projectiles punching through pressure hull at 723 feet per second, creating 3-inch holes, 3 of them, maybe 5. At 150 feet depth, seawater enters a submarine through a 3-inch hole at 400 gallons per minute. 3 holes mean 1,200 gallons per minute. 5 holes mean 2,000 gallons per minute. The breaking up noises aren't loud, just the groan of metal under pressure. The submarine settling deeper. More holes meant more water. More water meant more weight. More weight meant deeper. At 300 feet, the pressure increases. More water floods in faster. The temperature inside the submarine rises. 200 degrees, 300 degrees, the crew's lungs sear. Within 6 minutes, everyone aboard is dead, not from drowning, from heat, from steam, from air so hot it burns the throat. The submarine continues sinking, doesn't stop until it hits bottom at 800 feet. Oil and debris surface at 702, small quantity. The submarine didn't explode, just flooded, sank intact. The oil comes from ruptured fuel tanks, nothing more. The oil slick expands over the next 24 hours, several square miles, a dark stain on the blue Pacific. 56 more Japanese sailors dead. Pendleton stands on the bridge, watches the oil spread, thinks about 6 minutes, thinks about 300-degree heat, thinks about 56 men burning from the inside. Quick kill, sir. 1 attack. Pendleton's voice is flat. They didn't die quick. 6 minutes of heat, 6 minutes burning from inside. The exec goes quiet. Doesn't know what to say. Pendleton says, effective tactics aren't always clean tactics, but they're necessary. He walks away, goes to his cabin, sits at the desk, opens the notebook, writes R0116. 1 attack, 56 men, 6 minutes of hell. Mathematics says it was efficient. What does mathematics know about suffering? He stares at the page for a long time, then writes, Clayton, I'm becoming something I don't recognize. The numbers justify everything. But numbers don't have to live with what I'm doing. 4 submarines dead, 219 Japanese sailors gone, 3 more submarines remaining on the NA line. England's Hedgehog ammunition inventory, 168 rounds remaining, 7 attacks expended. 168 divided by 24 equals 7 full patterns. 7 attacks for 3 submarines means 2.3 attacks per kill if England maintains current efficiency. The mathematics says it's possible. Barely. May 25th, word reaches Admiral Ernest King at the Navy Department in Washington, D.C., Chief of Naval Operations, the man who commands every ship in the United States Navy. King reads the action reports. 1 destroyer escort, 4 confirmed submarine kills, 5 days, using a weapon most captains don't trust. King has been fighting this war for 32 months. He's seen every kind of weapon system, every kind of tactical innovation. Most of them fail. Some of them work marginally, very few work exceptionally. Hedgehog is working exceptionally, but only aboard England, only under Pendleton's command. King sends a message to Third Fleet. Simple, direct. There will always be an England in the United States Navy. The phrase spreads through the Pacific Fleet within hours. Radio men copy it, pass it to other ships. By sunset on May the 25th, every destroyer escort in the Pacific knows about England's record. 4 submarines in 5 days. Hedgehog attacks, perfect execution. Pendleton receives a copy of King's message, reads it, doesn't react, hands it to the exec. The exec says, "You're famous, sir. England's famous." Pendleton says fame means attention. Attention means new orders. New orders might pull us off this mission before we finish. Would that be so bad? 4 kills is already a record. 4 kills leaves 3 submarines operational. Those 3 submarines will report American fleet movements. American sailors will die because we didn't finish the job. The exec understands, says, "You want all 7. I want the mission complete. Personal feelings don't matter. The mathematics requires 7 kills." But fame brings exactly what Pendleton feared. Attention. On May the 25th, Admiral William Halsey wants England pulled from submarine hunting. Reassigned to carrier escort duty, Halsey's reasoning is sound. 4 kills make England's crew experienced. Experienced crews are rare, valuable, too valuable to risk in continued submarine hunting. Pull them now, let them train other crews, spread the knowledge, protect the asset. Commander Haynes receives Halsey's order, reads it, understands the logic, but disagrees with the conclusion. 3 submarines remain on the NA line, RO-105, RO-108, RO-109. England has killed 4 in 5 days. The mathematics says she can kill the remaining 3 in 3 more days. Pull her now and the mission stays incomplete. Japanese submarines continue reporting American fleet movements. The intelligence advantage is lost. Haynes sends a message to Halsey. Polite, firm. Request permission to complete NA line prosecution. 3 targets remain. England can finish in 72 hours. Pulling now wastes momentum and tactical advantage. Halsey reads Haynes's message, considers. The risk is real. Lose England, and you lose the most effective anti-submarine crew in the Pacific. But Haynes is right about momentum. 3 submarines in 3 days is achievable. Maybe. Halsey sends approval. 1 more patrol, 72 hours maximum, then England comes off the line regardless of results. Pendleton never knows about this exchange, never knows Halsey wanted him pulled, never knows Haynes fought to keep him hunting. He only knows he has 3 more targets. And time is running short. May 26th, 11:03 at night. Raby gains radar contact on row 108 at 15,000 yards, 110 nautical miles northeast of Seidler Harbor. The submarine dives immediately. Seawater floods ballast tanks. The bow angles down. Within 2 minutes, RO-108 is at 200 feet and descending. Raby moves in for the attack, but the Japanese commander makes the same mistake as RO-116, stays shallow 180 feet, makes radical turns, believes the Americans can't track him. Pendleton's crew has tracked 4 submarines before this one. They know every evasion tactic, every depth change, every turn pattern. Raby fires Hedgehog at 23:15. 24 projectiles splash into the water. Sink. Miss. Division Commander Haynes gives the order again. The order that's becoming England's signature. Go ahead, England. 23:23. England commences Hedgehog attack on RO-108. 4 projectiles hit, maybe 6. The explosions come so close together they sound like one. RO-108 breaks apart immediately. No slow flooding, no gradual sinking. The pressure hull ruptures at multiple points simultaneously. The submarine implodes. 56 men die in less than 3 seconds. Faster than they can process what's happening. Faster than the nerve signals can travel from eyes to brain. The brain registers explosion and water at the same instant. Consciousness ceases. It's the fastest death Pendleton has delivered. Also the most absolute. Debris surfaces within minutes. Very small pieces. The implosion shredded everything. Metal fragments no bigger than a hand. wood splinters, fabric scraps, oil, always oil. Pendleton watches from England's bridge. It's almost midnight. The ocean is black. The debris field is invisible except where searchlights catch the oil sheen. The exec says 5 submarines in 6 days, sir. 275 Japanese sailors dead. Pendleton says 2 left, RO-105 and RO-109. We're running low on ammunition. I know. How many rounds remaining? 120. 120 Hedgehog rounds, 5 full patterns, 2 submarines. The mathematics is tight, very tight. If both submarines require 3 attacks each, England will run out of ammunition. 2 full patterns per submarine, no margin for error. Pendleton goes to his cabin, opens the notebook, writes 5 submarines, 6 days, 275 men. The numbers keep growing. Does it ever stop? Then he writes something he hasn't written before, something he's been avoiding. Clayton, I think I understand now. You died because someone made a mistake, a bad calculation, a wrong guess. I'm trying to make sure I don't make mistakes, but every attack kills dozens of men. Even when the mathematics is perfect, even when the tactics are correct, men die. He pauses, stares at the page, writes, the question isn't whether the mathematics justifies it. The question is whether I can live with it afterward. I don't know the answer yet. He closes the notebook, tries to sleep, can't. Lies in his bunk staring at the overhead, counts rivets, counts beams, counts anything to avoid counting bodies. 275, soon to be 387 if he gets the last 2 submarines. 387 men at the bottom of the Pacific because Walton Pendleton trusted mathematics over tradition. The numbers say it's right. The numbers say it saves American lives. The numbers say continue. Pendleton believes in numbers, but tonight alone in his cabin he wonders if numbers know everything, or if some things can't be calculated. Like the weight of 387 deaths on one man's conscience, he doesn't sleep until 4 a.m., 2 hours before dawn. 2 hours before the hunt continues, May 27th. England continues northeast along the NA line. 2 submarines remain, RO-105, RO-109, 120 Hedgehog rounds in the magazine, 5 full attack patterns, 2 targets, 5 attacks total. The margin for error is gone. At Japanese Imperial Navy headquarters in Tokyo, Admiral Soemu Toyoda reviews the patrol reports. 7 submarines deployed to the NA line, 5 submarines missing, no distress calls, no emergency transmissions. Just silence. 1 submarine every 24 hours. The pattern is obvious. Something is killing his submarines, something fast, something accurate, something the submarine commanders can't evade. Toyoda issues new orders to the remaining submarines. RO-105 and RO-109 received the transmission on May 27th. New patrol depth 400 feet minimum. New surface protocol. No battery recharging unless absolutely necessary. New evasion tactic, run silent at first detection. No radical maneuvers. Radical maneuvers make noise. Noise gives sonar operators better tracking data. The Japanese are learning, but they're learning from dead men's mistakes. 5 submarines destroyed. 275 sailors gone. The lessons cost blood. RO-105's commander reads the new orders, understands what they mean. 5 submarines dead means the Americans have developed a new weapon or a new tactic, or both. Standard evasion procedures aren't working. Time to try something different. He orders his crew to rig for silent running, shut down all non-essential systems, minimum speed, maximum depth, run like a ghost. Make the Americans work for every contact. If they can't hear you, they can't kill you. Simple mathematics. But Nia RO-105's commander doesn't know about Fleet Radio Unit Pacific, doesn't know the Americans already know his patrol area, know his schedule, know when he'll have to surface. Submarines run on batteries when submerged. Electric motors draw power. Eventually the batteries deplete. When that happens, you surface. Run diesel engines, recharge. Basic physics, unavoidable. England, George and Raby position themselves along RO-105's probable surface track. Standard search formation, 16,000 yards spacing, radar sweeping continuously. Waiting, calculating, patient. May 30th, 21:45. George detects RO-105 on radar, range 13,000 yards. The submarine is on the surface, diesel engines running, recharging batteries. The Japanese commander chose his surfacing time well. Full darkness, no moon, overcast sky. Radar is the only detection method that works in these conditions. But radar works very well. George's SG surface search radar can detect a submarine at 15,000 yards. RO105 is well within range. The submarine dives at 21:48, 3 minutes on the surface. Not long enough to recharge significantly, maybe 5% battery capacity. Enough for 2 hours of submerged running, not enough to reach safety. England establishes sonar contact at 2200, range 2,000 yards. RO105 is running deep, 400 feet, following Toyota's orders precisely. The Japanese commander is good, disciplined, careful, but he makes a critical decision. Instead of running after diving, he stops all engines, goes completely silent. No propeller noise, no machinery vibration, nothing for sonar to detect. The sonar contact weakens, becomes intermittent. The sonar operator calls it out. "Contact fading, sir. Signal strength dropping." Pendleton understands immediately. The submarine is drifting. No engines means no propeller wash, no wake, just a metal cylinder suspended at 400 feet drifting with the current. It's brilliant tactics. If the sonar operators can't hear the submarine, they can't track it, can't predict its position, can't generate a firing solution. The exec says, "Sir, we should attack while we have any contact at all." Pendleton says, "At this range, with this signal strength, probability of hit is less than 5%, 1 in 20 chance. We can't afford to waste ammunition on those odds." "What if we lose contact completely?" "Then we wait for him to move. He has to move eventually. Batteries are nearly depleted. He'll have to surface again or run on batteries until they die. Either way he moves, we listen, we calculate." And the exec doesn't argue. Pendleton has been right every time so far. 5 submarines dead, 5 times the mathematics worked. 4 hours pass. RO105 stays silent, drifting with the current. The Japanese commander has nerves of steel, patience beyond measure. He's willing to sit 400 feet down in absolute darkness, waiting, hoping the Americans give up and leave. But Pendleton's patience matches his. Better, Pendleton can wait indefinitely. England isn't running on batteries, isn't depleting limited resources, can maintain position for days if necessary. The submarine can't. Basic physics wins eventually. At 2:30 on May the 31st, the sonar signal strengthens. RO105 is moving. Battery power running out. Electric motors need recharging. The commander has no choice. He has to surface soon or die anyway. But he has one more tactic, one final desperate gamble that might work. During those 4 hours of silent drifting, RO105 moved with the current. Not far, maybe 3 miles. But in a direction the Americans aren't watching. The current flows northeast at 0.6 knots. 4 hours means 2.4 nautical miles drift. The Americans are still searching the area where RO105 went silent. But RO105 isn't there anymore. At 3:15, RO105 surfaces, but not where England expects. The submarine is 3 miles from the last known position. Wrong direction, wrong bearing entirely. George's radar catches the contact at 13,000 yards. Unexpected quadrant. The hunting group has been searching the wrong grid square entirely. By the time England turns toward the new contact, RO105 has already crash-dived. The Japanese commander bought himself 90 seconds of surface time, 90 seconds of diesel engine operation, enough to add 10% power to his depleted batteries, enough to run. Pendleton hears the report, realizes what happened. The submarine drifted with the current during silent running, surfaced miles from where it went quiet. Classic tactics. Effective. He actually smiles. First time in 6 days. Says he's good, better than the other 5. The exec says he outsmarted us. He delayed us. Different thing, but he bought himself some time. We have to respect that. England establishes sonar contact at 03:45. RO105 is running deep and fast, 6 knots, heading northeast away from the hunting group. The Japanese commander is good, maybe the best they've faced. He studied the previous attacks, learned from 5 dead submarines, knows that staying deep and running fast makes hedgehog attacks difficult. The problem is mathematics. Hedgehog projectiles sink at 23 feet per second. At 400 feet depth, projectiles take 17 seconds to reach target depth. In 17 seconds, a submarine moving at 6 knots travels 170 feet. The firing solution requires predicting where the submarine will be 17 seconds from now. Predict wrong and the circular pattern misses completely. First hedgehog attack at 0405. 24 projectiles arc through the pre-dawn darkness. Splash, sink, miss. 200 feet off target. R0105 turned during the projectile descent time. Remaining ammunition 96 rounds. 4 full patterns. Second attack at 0423. Miss. 100 feet closer but still wrong. The submarine is varying its speed. 6 knots, then 4 knots, then 6 again, making the mathematics impossible. Remaining ammunition 72 rounds. 3 full patterns. 2 submarines left. 3 attack patterns remaining. The numbers are failing. For the first time in 6 days, the mathematics isn't enough. Pendleton stands silent, stares at the sonar screen. The green phosphorescent trace shows RO-105 maneuvering, turning, changing speed. The Japanese commander is winning the mathematics game. The exec says quietly, "Sir, if we don't get him in the next attack, we won't have enough ammunition for both remaining submarines." Pendleton knows, has already calculated. 3 patterns left, 2 submarines. If RO-105 takes 2 patterns, that leaves 1 pattern for RO-109. 1 attack to kill the final submarine. The odds aren't good. England's success rate is approximately 40%. 40% chance of killing RO-109 with 1 attack. 60% chance of failure. 60% chance the mission stays incomplete. Pendleton says, "We need to find the pattern. Humans can't be random. He's falling into something predictable. We just haven't seen it yet." The sonar operator has been tracking RO-105 for 30 minutes now, calling out every turn, every speed change, every depth adjustment. He's young, 23 years old. This is his first war patrol. But he has perfect pitch, can distinguish individual sonar frequencies like a concert pianist, distinguishing notes. He says, "Sir, contact turns every 4 minutes, 30 degrees to port, then 30 degrees to starboard. Interval is consistent." Pendleton focuses. "Every 4 minutes. "Yes, sir, 4 minutes, exactly. I've been timing it. 4 minutes, 30 degrees, port, then starboard, back and forth." The Japanese commander thinks he's being random, but humans can't sustain randomness. They fall into patterns, rhythms, predictable behaviors. 4 minutes. The interval is consistent because the commander is counting in his head, trying to maintain irregular intervals. But the human brain likes round numbers. 4 minutes feels random, feels irregular. But it's not. It's a pattern. Pendleton calculates. RO-105 turned to port 3 minutes ago. In 1 minute it will turn to starboard, 30 degrees, predictable. He adjusts the firing solution, predicts the turn, leads the target by 200 feet, accounts for the 17-second descent time, calculates the exact bearing where RO-105 will be when the projectiles reach 400 feet depth. Third hedgehog attack, 0508. 24 projectiles splash into the Pacific, sink into darkness. 4 detonations, maybe 5. Not the massive explosion of previous kills. RO-105's pressure hull is breached, but not destroyed. The submarine continues moving, flooding, but not sinking. The Japanese commander is executing emergency procedures: blow ballast tanks, emergency surface, abandon ship, save the crew. Good tactics, proper procedure, might work if given time. But England's 4th attack at 0532 hits with 8 detonations. The submarine breaks apart. Emergency blow stops. The compressed air that should lift the submarine to the surface vents uselessly into the ocean. The crew never reaches the surface, 56 men sealed in a flooding hull. 400 feet down. Water pressure prevents the hatches from opening. They're trapped. It takes 9 minutes for RO-105 to sink to the bottom. 9 minutes of darkness. Rising water, decreasing air, men praying, men crying, men accepting. At 0541, the submarine settles on the ocean floor at 620 feet. Everyone aboard is already dead, drowned, or suffocated when the air ran out. Oil and debris appear at 6:15 after sunrise, not much. The submarine sank mostly intact. Just ruptured fuel tanks leaking, enough oil to create a slick, enough to confirm the kill. 6 submarines in 12 days, 387 Japanese sailors dead. Pendleton stands on the bridge, watches the oil spread in the morning light. The Pacific is calm, beautiful. The sun rises orange and gold. Perfect day, perfect for killing. He thinks about Clayton, about the telegram, about the decision to trust numbers over everything else. 6 submarines, 12 days, 387 men. The exec approaches, says, 6 submarines, sir. 12 days. The record is unprecedented. Pendleton's voice is quiet, almost a whisper. I proved mathematics works, but mathematics doesn't tell you how to sleep afterward. He walks to his cabin, sits at the desk, opens the notebook one final time, writes, Clayton, the numbers were right. I saved American lives by ending Japanese lives. The mathematics justifies it. But I will carry these 387 men for the rest of my life. That's the price numbers never calculate. He closes the notebook, never opens it again. The exec appears at the door. Sir, Admiral Halsey wants us pulled off the line immediately. Orders came through 10 minutes ago. We're to return to Manus for refit and reassignment. What about RO-109? 7th submarine abandoned its patrol station. Intelligence intercepts show it received orders to withdraw to Truk after RO-108 was destroyed. It's gone. Pendleton processes this. 7 submarines, 6 dead, 1 escaped. Mission 93% complete. He says, we should pursue. Sir, we have 48 Hedgehog rounds remaining, 2 attack patterns. If we don't kill RO-109 in 2 attacks, we're out of ammunition. Halsey's orders are explicit. Return immediately. Pendleton wants to argue, wants to complete the mission, wants 100%, not 93%. But the mathematics doesn't support it. 2 attacks against a submarine that's actively fleeing, low probability of success. He nods. Set course for Manus, secure from general quarters. The Presidential Unit citation arrives in July, one of only 3 destroyer escorts to receive the honor during the entire war. The citation reads, for extraordinary heroism in action against enemy Japanese submarines. The words don't capture what England accomplished, the mathematics does. British forces, 5,174 depth charge attacks, 85 kills, 1.6%. England, 15 Hedgehog attacks, 6 submarines, 40% success rate, 25 times more effective than depth charges, 8 times better than the Hedgehog average. The weapon becomes standard across the fleet by September. Pendleton's tactics become doctrine. In the Atlantic, Hedgehog sinks 47 German U-boats by war's end, 268 attacks, 47 kills, 17.5% success rate. Still the best anti-submarine weapon of the war, but no ship matches England's 12-day record. Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton receives the Navy Cross in August, single decoration for 6 submarines. The citation mentions his tactical brilliance, his crew's discipline, the weapon system's effectiveness, but it doesn't mention the thing that mattered most. Mathematics. October 31st, 1944, Leyte Gulf. England is screening escort carriers during the battle off Samar. At 14:45, a kamikaze aircraft breaks through the combat air patrol. The bomb penetrates England's forward engine room, explodes, tears through bulkheads, ruptures steam lines. 37 crew members die instantly. 25 more are wounded. The damage is catastrophic. Forward engine room destroyed, boilers ruptured. Electrical systems failed. England limps to Manus Island. Navy damage assessment 6 months to repair. Costs more than building new. The Navy decides England isn't worth saving. November 1946. Sold for scrap. Cut apart in a salvage yard. The ship that sank 6 submarines in 12 days ends its life as razor blades and tin cans. But the record stands. 80 years later, no ship has matched it. Walton Pendleton retires in 1961 after 34 years of service, returns to Iowa. buys a small farm outside Des Moines, raises corn like his father, never talks about the war, never mentions the 6 submarines, never mentions the 387 men his neighbors know he served, know he was decorated, but they don't know the details. Pendleton dies in 1973, age 66, heart attack. Quick, peaceful, buried at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors. His gravestone mentions the Navy Cross, mentions his rank, mentions his years of service. Doesn't mention the 6 submarines, doesn't mention the 12 days that changed naval warfare. The principle behind hedgehog forward-throwing contact-fused weapons that maintain sonar contact became the foundation for modern anti-submarine warfare. The ASROC system, used by the US Navy today, traces directly to Hedgehog's design. At the Naval Academy, officers still study Pendleton's tactics. Trust data over experience, calculate over guess, mathematics over tradition. That's the legacy. Not the kills, the lesson. Somewhere at the bottom of the Pacific, 6 submarines rest in darkness. I-16, RO-106, RO-104, RO-116, RO-108, RO-105, 387 sailors, somebody's sons, somebody's brothers dead because one man trusted mathematics when nobody else would. Walton Pendleton proved that numbers don't lie. That calculation defeats tradition. That courage means trusting evidence even when the world doubts. May 31st, 1944, 5:32 in the morning. 24 projectiles, 8 detonations, 1 submarine destroyed. The mathematics was right. The mathematics is always right.